There are towns in Australia where the main street has not changed since the decade they stopped paying attention to it. These places feel stuck in time. No chain stores, no traffic lights, no modern signage, just wide verandas, corrugated iron roofs, hand-painted signs, and pubs that close when they feel like it. Some were preserved on purpose, some by accident, and some because nobody came back to change anything. The 1960s was the last decade before highway construction, chain retail, and suburbanisation transformed the Australian main street, and these 12 towns froze right at that moment. In 12th place, Hahndorf in South Australia sets the tone for this journey into the past. Founded in 1839 by Prussian Lutheran settlers, the town's main street still carries the rhythm of another century. Timber-framed facades line the road, their half-timbered patterns and steep-pitched roofs recalling the villages of the Old World. During World War I, Hahndorf was renamed Ambleside, a gesture to wartime suspicion, but the original name returned in 1935, restoring a sense of belonging for its community. Today, the bakery on Main Street still uses recipes handed down through generations. A scent of apple strudel and rye bread drifts out onto the footpath. Every detail, from hand-painted shop signs to the corrugated iron awnings, is protected by the South Australian Heritage Register. Tourism now fuels the local economy, but the preservation here is no accident. Hahndorf stands as a lovingly maintained time capsule, where the deliberate care of residents and heritage advocates has locked the street in a 1960s frame, inviting visitors to wander at the pace of another era. In the 11th place, Chiltern in Victoria sits quietly on the edge of the goldfields, where the rush of the 1850s still echoes in the timber and brick of its main street. Here, Dow's Pharmacy stands as a rare survivor, a chemist shop whose interior has barely shifted since the days when prescriptions were mixed by hand. Glass apothecary jars line shelves of polished wood, brass scales rest on the counter, and the pressed tin ceiling glows softly in the afternoon light. The pharmacy, now under the care of the National Trust, is more than a museum piece. It is a living record of country town life before the arrival of chain stores and modern signage. Beyond Dow's, the railway station and a string of veranda-shaded shopfronts remain protected by a heritage overlay that quietly resists unsympathetic change. There are no bold interventions here, just a low-key planning shield that allows the past to linger, preserving the understated rhythm of a town that never felt the need to catch up. In the 10th place, Junee in New South Wales stands as a living memory of railway grandeur, its heartbeat set by the tracks that once brought life to the town's core. The French Renaissance station, rebuilt after a fire in the early 1880s, rises above the main street with a mansard roof and ornate brickwork that still signal the optimism of the steam era. For decades, this was a place of clanging turntables and bustling refreshment rooms, where a meat pie and a cup of tea marked the rhythm of travel. Everything changed in 1977, when the Hume Highway bypass opened and the constant flow of cars and trucks was cut in half almost overnight. The main street, once crowded with travellers, slowed to a gentler pace, leaving the rows of veranda-shaded shops and the grand station untouched by the wave of chain stores and modern signage that swept through other towns. Even now, the Monte Cristo homestead sits on the hill, a reminder that history here is not just preserved, but quietly endured. In Junee, the echo of the railways and the hush of the highway bypass have conspired to keep the 1960s alive, not as a museum, but as the lived-in backdrop of daily life. Number 9, Berrima in New South Wales sits quietly on a bend of the Wilcannia River, its Georgian heart shielded by the folds of surrounding hills. Unlike many towns swept aside by highway engineers, Berrima's original street plan survived the 20th century almost untouched. The Hume Highway, hungry for straight lines and speed, found no easy passage here, and the steep terrain forced planners to route traffic around the old village, leaving its core undisturbed. The result is a civic ensemble where the courthouse from 1838 still presides over a green, and the Surveyor General Inn, licensed since 1834, continues to serve travellers as it did in the era of mail coaches and gold escorts. Many of the town's key buildings are now in the hands of the National Trust, whose careful stewardship has ensured that veranda posts, iron roofs and hand-painted pub signs remain as they were before the age of bypasses and big box retail. Here, the past is not a backdrop but a living presence, held in place by both the stubbornness of the land and the quiet vigilance of those who value what endures. 8th place belongs to Richmond, Tasmania, where the past lingers in the cold weight of sandstone and the hush of narrow lanes. The Richmond Bridge, finished in 1825 by convict hands, still carries traffic over the Coal River, its arches the oldest in use anywhere in Australia. The bridge anchors a townscape that seems untouched by the march of decades. Georgian cottages, their windows set deep in thick stone walls, cluster along streets that have never been widened for modern traffic. The old Richmond gaol, predating even Port Arthur, stands with its iron-barred cells and low, forbidding doorways as a reminder of the colony's earliest years. Isolation has been Richmond's protector. When the Sorrel Causeway opened in 1872, it diverted the main flow of traffic away, leaving the heart of the town to drift at its own pace. Here, the rhythm is set by the toll of church bells, the crunch of gravel underfoot, and the quiet endurance of buildings that have stood for nearly 2 centuries. Richmond endures not through grand gestures, but through the quiet persistence of stone, shadow, and memory. Number 7, Gulgong in New South Wales holds a rare kind of fame. Its main street once graced the nation's wallet. When Australia switched to decimal currency in 1966, the first $10 note carried an engraving of Gulgong's dusty thoroughfare, veranda posts and all. That image, pressed into millions of hands, turned the town into a living emblem of old Australia. The effect lingers. Wander down Main Street today and the same pressed tin shop fronts, corrugated iron roofs, and hand-painted signs still evoke the world of the 1960s, as if the note's artist had only just packed away their sketchbook. The Prince of Wales Opera House, built in 1871, still hosts performances beneath its creaking balcony, and Henry Lawson's childhood haunts remain woven into the town's identity. Gulgong streetscape is protected as a state heritage precinct, but it's also preserved in the national imagination, frozen by the collective memory of a banknote and by the pride of a community that knows its past is worth more than gold. Here, cultural memory has done the work of 1,000 planning laws, letting Gulgong stand as a cheerful monument to the era before progress swept so much away. In the 6th place, Wilcannia stands on the edge of the Darling River, its grand sandstone buildings casting long shadows across streets that have grown quiet with the years. Once, riverboats crowded the wharves, unloading wool bales and barrels, as Wilcannia handled more cargo than any other inland port in Australia. But the current slowed. By 1975, river trade had collapsed, with cargo tonnage falling from 150,000 to just 55,000 tonnes a year. The town's fortunes faded, and so did its population, dropping by nearly a fifth as jobs vanished and families moved away. Yet, in this stillness, Wilcannia's 19th century civic heart endures. The Customs House, with its heavy doors and arched windows, stands as it did in the riverboat era. The 1884 courthouse rises above the main street, its stonework weathered but unbowed. These buildings, now listed on the New South Wales Heritage Register, are relics of ambition and loss, preserved not by design but by the absence of change. On Wiradjuri country, the story is layered. For some, these empty facades are reminders of dispossession and the struggle to reclaim voice and place. In Wilcannia, the past lingers not as a curated museum, but as a gentle melancholy, a town held in the slow embrace of the river, its history written in stone and silence. Number 5, Maldon in Victoria stands as the benchmark for what organised heritage protection can achieve. In 1966, the National Trust of Australia made a declaration that would set the tone for the preservation movement nationwide. Maldon became the country's first officially designated notable town. This was not just a plaque on a wall, it was a legal shield forged by local activism and council resolve to guard every veranda post, timber shopfront and pressed metal awning from the march of modernisation. The community drew a line in the red goldfields dirt, insisting that the old town hall, built in 1865, and the rows of gold rush era buildings would not be sacrificed for convenience or profit. The debate has never fully faded. Recent years saw a bid for a boutique hotel vetoed by council, the facade's fate debated in packed public meetings. Yet it is not all policy and protest. On weekends, the old Goldfields Railway, run by volunteers, fills the air with the scent of steam and the echo of whistles, drawing visitors who step off the train and into another era. Maldon's streetscape endures not by accident, but by the determined will of its people. It is a living example of how a whole town can choose to remain a time capsule, holding fast to the spirit of the 1960s in every weathered brick and iron roof. Number 4. Walhalla sits deep in a mountain gorge where the world seems to narrow and the present fades away. The road winds along steep slopes, hemmed by dense forest and the echo of distant water, until the town appears, clinging to the valley floor like a memory that refuses to let go. Walhalla's gold rush began in the 1860s, and for half a century, miners hauled quartz from the earth, lowering themselves into the vertical shaft that still claims the title of Victoria's deepest surviving gold mine. When the gold ran out, so did the crowds. The population collapsed almost overnight, and with it, the pressure to modernise. Today, mobile reception barely reaches the main street. The only train is the Heritage Railway, its carriages rattling over timber bridges, carrying visitors on a journey that feels more like time travel than tourism. Timber cottages, corrugated iron roofs, and the old post office stand as they did before the first highways carved up the countryside. Here, the valley walls act as sentinels, shielding Walhalla from the world beyond, and giving the place a sensory isolation that is both eerie and comforting. In Walhalla, the past is not just preserved. It is amplified by the silence, the steep hills, and the slow rhythm of a town that the 20th century could not quite reach. Number 3. Tibooburra sits where the bitumen turns to dust, at the edge of the Streletsky Desert, a frontier town that feels as far from the present as from the sea. Founded in 1881 during the gold rush, Tibooburra's isolation is absolute. The Silver City Highway comes close, but never quite reaches the centre, leaving the town adrift in a sea of ochre and spinifex. Here, the main street is a scatter of weathered timber and stone, corrugated iron roofs shimmering in the heat. The family hotel stands at the heart of it all, its walls covered in murals painted by artists like Clifton Pugh and Russell Drysdale, who traded paint for a bed and a beer in the 1960s. These murals, outback nudes, wild dingoes, and feverish landscapes turn the pub into a living gallery, a place where the boundary between art and everyday life blurs. Across the street, Bell's Milk Bar has been serving milkshakes since 1964, its faded sign a relic of the era when the town's only connection to the outside world came by mail truck or the rare passing traveller. The dingo fence snakes through the red earth nearby, and the horizon dissolves into the vast emptiness of Sturt National Park. In Tibooburra, remoteness is not just a fact, it is a presence, shaping every detail from the slow rhythm of the days to the stories etched on pub walls. The 1960s never really left here. They simply settled in, dust and all, preserved by distance and the stubborn pride of those who call this place home. In second place, Silverton in New South Wales stands where the Outback meets cinema, its battered streetscape a familiar face to audiences around the world. The town's population hovers around 50, yet its identity is anything but small. Since 1979, Silverton's sun-bleached hotel and rusted railway station have played starring roles in films like Mad Max 2 and The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Walk down the main drag and the sense of déjà vu is almost overwhelming. Weathered corrugated iron, hand-painted pub signs, and the Silverton Hotel itself still serve cold beer beneath a canopy of movie posters and Outback memorabilia. Here, the past is not just preserved, but carefully curated, with artists and locals tending the patina of age like a living set. The local council has drawn a hard line. Heritage precinct zoning bans large-scale commercial builds, ensuring no supermarket or modern franchise can break the spell. Instead, the town's faded facades are maintained with a touch of theatrical flair, each dent and flake of paint adding to the mythos. Silverton's economy now revolves around its image. Film crews, tourists, and painters all drawn by the promise of a place where the 1960s never quite gave way to the present. In Silverton, the art of staying stuck in time is both business and passion, a deliberate act that turns decay into cultural gold and makes the town's story as much about reinvention as about preservation. And finally, in first place, Broken Hill stands alone as a city-sized time capsule, where the spirit of the 1960s lingers on every corner. Here, the main street stretches wide beneath the Outback sun, lined with corrugated iron roofs and verandas that shade rows of weathered shop fronts. More than 350 heritage-listed structures anchor the city's visual memory, from the stately town hall to the ornate facades of Block 20, each one a chapter in an ongoing story. The mining legacy is inescapable. Since BHP was founded here in 1885, the rhythms of shift changes and the distant rumble of ore trains have set the city's pace. Yet Broken Hill's preservation is not just about industry. Step inside Bell's Milk Bar, and the world shrinks to a chrome-edged counter, pastel booths, and the syrupy scent of more than 50 milkshake flavours. The menu hasn't changed since 1956, and the hand-lettered signs behind the counter recall a time when a malted milk was the height of sophistication. Down the road, the Palace Hotel's walls bloom with murals, outback landscapes, and surreal scenes painted by local hands, their colours glowing beneath the soft light of the bar. These murals, now famous from Priscilla's journey across the desert, are woven into the city's cultural fabric. In Broken Hill, heritage is layered. It is the pride of miners, the artistry of public murals, and the lived-in comfort of a milk bar untouched by fashion. The city's scale sets it apart. While other towns preserve a single street or square, Broken Hill offers an entire urban landscape where the 1960s never quite faded. Here, the past is not just remembered, it is inhabited, in the echo of boots on a tiled floor, the clink of glasses in a pub, and the low hum of a jukebox spinning another tune from a gentler era. And in the hush of evening, as the sun sets over slag heaps and silvered rooftops, Broken Hill reminds us that sometimes being left behind is its own kind of salvation, a living archive of a country before the highways came. Across all 12 towns, one pattern stands out. The same forces that left these places behind, remoteness, bypassed highways, and economic shifts, also saved their character. Whether lovingly preserved or simply overlooked, each main street keeps alive the texture of a vanished era, with wide verandas, faded shop fronts, and stillness at dusk. These towns remind us how easily a country can rewrite its landscape, and how much is lost or quietly kept in the process.